I've always said life is a game.
Yep.
And you got to play to win. Life consists of three things. It consists of purposes, problems, and freedom.
Love this.
Right?
Yep.
You can't have one out of the three or two out of the three. It's got to be a balance of all three. The first thing you have to understand is life is filled with problems, and they're going to come at you. And as long as you understand that, when a problem comes, it's no longer a big deal because you realize that is life. Second thing you got to understand is purposes come with problems. And our job in life is to solve those problems. And when we solve those problems, we feel accomplished, and then we get freedom to celebrate, to rejoice, and to feel accomplished. However, that freedom is temporary. There's this falsely belief that our end goal is to have endless freedom. And that's the worst thing you can have, because if you have endless freedom, you're no longer producing and you're no longer productive, right? So you're not happy. So what happens is you'll get bored, you'll start feeling lethargic, you'll eventually end up sort of depressed.
Yes.
So for me, the key is once you find your once you have your purpose, you solve it, and you have that freedom. It's restricted because then you have to find a new purpose. You have to find a new game.
Yes.
If you stay playing the same game, you're going to be bored.
Yes.
So an example of that for me was when I first started in 1999. My purpose, one of my purposes, was to be the #1 authorized dealer for the program that I was with. Within 3 years, I made it. And then after that, I stayed as the #1 authorized dealer, but I didn't grow.
Yes.
Till you met me.
Yeah,
Boom.
that is true.
There it is.
So nothing ever stays the same
You're
in life.
right,
It's
baby.
either getting better or it's getting worse.
So
Nothing
true.
stays the same.
Yes.
So because I wasn't trying to get better, I started to decline.
Yep.
But then, because I didn't have a new game,
Yep.
I started to get bored.
Yep.
And because I started to get bored, I started to not want to be in the alarm industry. And I would focus on other things and try to invest in other businesses, and I'd lose my butt off. Finally, because of this one, she says to me one day, she's like, hey, I see you investing in things and I see you keep losing money. Why don't you ever invest in the one thing that you do know about, which is the alarm industry? And it hit me like a ton of bricks, because I'm like, you know what? She is right. And then I had to confront the fact of, do I really want to do this or not?
Yes.
And when I finally made a decision that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and I want to make a career in this industry, then the game started again. And the game went, I don't want to do 250 accounts a month, I want to do 1,000. I don't want to be in one state, I want to be in 10 states. I don't want to have just 6 office employees, I want to have 50. And then that came with a bunch of problems. The bigger the goal, purpose, the bigger the problems. You solve it, you feel accomplished, boom, what's my next purpose? What's my next purpose? And that happens to you in all parts of my life. I call my 4 pillars, which is I got my spiritual, I got my family, I got my business, and I got my body and mind. You could be great in business, and you could be accomplishing, and you could be here, but if in your personal life, if you stop working on your marriage, right? Again, nothing stays the same. It either gets worse or better. So if you stop working on it, it's going to get worse. And if that crumbles, that could bring down everything.
So true, brother.
Right?
Yep.
For me, another example, the one thing I wasn't working on was my mind. So for 19 years, I did not do any personal development.
You've been working on yourself.
And what happens is when you don't do something for a long time, you start to dislike it.
Yep.
Up until this year, I hated podcasts. I hated books. I hated study. Even in high school, I hated it. And this year, I was like, I started beginning to doubt.
Yes.
I got my company to a certain level.
Yep.
And then the doubt started, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not going to be able to influence people because you're getting to a point where your own employees are probably smarter than you. And then I was just like, I know that's a lie. Let me attack what I've been procrastinating on. Right? The reason you worry about things is because you're procrastinating on things. You're not attacking it. You're not tackling it. And finally, I was just like, screw it. I'm going to make some time.
Good, baby.
And now, since February, I put an hour of study. The same way I work on my fitness.
Podcast, books, whatever.
Everything for an hour. I don't miss it.
Yep.
I've been on fire since then.
Yeah.
And
It's interesting. Can I say something about
Yeah.
that? I want to jump in on that. You know that I coach a lot of athletes and stuff. There was someone here yesterday.
Yeah.
I won't say who it was, but they're one of the top people in the athlete space. And I asked her, I said, okay, it's great you're doing what you're doing, and now what's next? And she went blank, and she goes, this is what I'm struggling with constantly. I don't know what's next.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, let me just be very clear with you. This isn't going to stay the way it is. So if you don't grow it, it's going to start to die. Exactly what you just said. And I said, and here's your issue, and this is the thing for you too, this is what you changed. I said, babe, here's your deal. You've not changed your identity. Your results have started to exceed your identity. You've started to produce results outside of your identity. Your identity
Yes.
is this thermostat sitting on the wall in that room, and you are going to start to unconsciously cool it back down. That's starting to invest in crap you know
starting
nothing
to do
about.
that. I was
Starting to
starting to do
spend
that.
money,
Yeah.
starting to get bored, and you don't know you're doing it. But what you do is you just unconsciously cool life back to right where you are comfortable, because you're only going to get out of life this identity. It's the most powerful force in the world, is
Yeah.
to be consistent with your worth and the ideas you hold about yourself. You will somehow cool this bad boy back down.
Yep.
So
But
you're
also,
exactly right.
in
Thank
regards
you.
to what you were saying about her yesterday, she's at the beginning because she just said she was vulnerable to you,
You got it.
and that's how she's able to get help.
Yes.
If you're not vulnerable and you can't ever talk about what you're struggling with,
Yes.
you can't grow.
Yes.
If he never came to me and he was just venting, I know nothing about the alarm business
Yeah.
and home security. I know nothing. He was just venting.
Yeah.
I was like,
If
I
you
don't know if I
can't-
want
if
to do
you're
this
not
anymore.
vulnerable around
And
the
I was
people-
making great money.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I was
it-
just bored.
You're ready to blow your life up because you exceeded your identity is what
Yeah.
you're going to do.
No, I mean, even something in my business, I could just casually mention it to him, and he'll be like, "Oh, well, I know so and so, and blah blah blah," and it's just effortless.
Yeah.
But if you stay inside of yourself and you only internalize every single feeling,
Wow.
you can't grow.
Whoa.
Even if you're trying super hard.
That's so good. That is so good. And you know the other, oh man, this is good. And the other thing that I see with entrepreneurs that you have is they're aware. And so
Yeah.
some of their awareness may not come from themselves, it comes from their spouse. They're like, hey, wake up, dude. Like, hey, I kind of see you good at this security thing. Shouldn't we kind of grow that thing, right? So
Yeah.
their awareness level. Man, there's so many things to cover, and we're like, time-wise. But let me ask you a question about the two of you. Let's
Yeah.
get real for a minute. What's the thing that's in your marriage? What's the hard part? Right now, you got more fame, you're on TV, you're growing this business.
Mm-hmm.
What's the hard part? We know the good part. What's the hard part?
Well, one of the things that she's been very, very supportive with the last 3 years is I'm still working a lot of hours, and it's that balance, right? And for a long time, she used to get on me like, you need to be home by 5:30 so you can spend time with the kids.
Everyone's relating. Go right
Yeah.
now.
And
Everyone's
she was
relating.
like-
I would ride him
Yeah.
like
She'd
it was.
be like calling me, and then, it sort of takes away because then you start feeling bad.
the
right?
very person you're doing it
Yeah.
for.
but
and
then,
then-
he
and
comes home and I'm mad at him anyway because it's 5:45.
Yeah. So
You know?
so then I have a conversation with her. I said, baby, even though I'm here at 6 o'clock, I'm not present because I'm thinking of all the things that I haven't done.
But
And
then we learned to compromise.
And then we negotiated.
We negotiated. I
Yeah.
said, okay, here, you come as long as you're home by the time I put the kids to sleep. So you're home by 7:30. You kiss them goodnight. So
Yeah.
Saturday and Sundays, it's us. It's either we're doing a date, which we do day dates, not night dates,
Okay.
because day dates we don't dread. We were realizing we were going out at night.
We dreaded it.
We'd
We'd be
spend
beat.
all
Are
day
you
with
dreading
the kids.
going out with me tonight?
No,
Okay.
because we have this, momentum.
Right.
But normally you're spending a full Saturday with your kids, and at 7:30 a babysitter comes. You have to get ready. You go out to dinner, and then you're like, hey.
Right, it's true.
So we switched it. So we
Yep.
were like, okay, we're instead of getting a babysitter Saturday night, we're gonna get one Saturday morning. We're gonna work out together, do our favorite
out
class,
together.
Cool.
compete at it, like where we
Cool.
kind of push each other. Go to brunch, maybe have a mimosa,
Good idea.
laugh, have fun, then go home and be good parents.
Good idea.
Yeah.
But like that shift,
Wow, what a
What-
killer tip.
but like once we made the shift where I was like, listen, Monday through Friday, I will not bug you once. But if you come to me and you tell me you're going to Vegas for the weekend with your friends,
Not happening.
it's not happening.
Yeah. So there was a
I will
dial.
spend 16 hours. So, and my thing is like, okay, I can't spend the 2 hours a day with them on the weekday, but if I can make up 16 hours and be present,
Yep. Yep.
because I know I took care of everything at work.
Well, it sounds
And so
funny,
the-
but everybody, I just want to say this. I've said this before, but I love that you talked about this, though. You didn't argue about, like, this is my position, this is yours. That's why we have couple on, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let's meet somewhere on this,
But
which
I
you
mean,
did.
it took us, I'm not going to lie, it
Yeah.
took us a while to get there. I
Sure.
mean, it took to the
So on
point
Saturdays, I
where,
want to go play ball for 4 hours.
and
Yeah.
I had so much resentment, but it wasn't until I found what made me happy with inside of myself, where I was able to communicate my needs.
Wow, so
I
good.
don't want to feel like I'm having to ask you to be with us.
Yeah, yep.
That feels gross to me.
Yep, you're right. And on the other side of it, so on the side of the driver's side, you're both drivers, but on this driver's side, this sounds odd, but it's okay. So I want to say this because you said you don't want to feel obligated. Some of the people, could be the woman that's the one that's out longer, not the man. You need to make these appointments with your family.
Yeah.
And it may sound contrived, but to them now you're present. It's better to be present with them when you're with them, as you
yeah.
said. And for me, that means it's an appointment. You've made an appointment with Teddy, an appointment with your family for Saturdays and Sundays. And
Yeah.
that may seem like cool and disconnected, but what it really is you're saying they're my highest priority, and that's why I'm scheduling them. So scheduling an appointment with your family isn't cold.
Yeah.
No, it's
love.
commitment.
It's love and commitment.
Being
Like
present.
at 5 in the morning, we get up and we talk about our days. We have our thing because I know that I'm a morning person. He's a morning person. But like he comes home and he's tired. I'm tired. We both worked. I've put the kids to bed, and like we're not going to have that moment.
Yeah, I love the
So-
daytime date tip,
Yeah,
by
in
the
the
way.
early
Love
morning
that.
we
That
go
was
over
a game
our
changer
weeks.
for us.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Complete game changer.
Okay, so that was the issue, was the time management piece, which I knew because we had talked off camera, and the fact that all achiever couples struggle with this one topic. It's the balance. And by the way, there's no balance necessarily, but you should seek it. Like, balance is boredom. There's
Right.
something beautiful about one area of your life spiking and fixing the other area that I want to acknowledge. You have this
That,
thing,
that
Edwin.
goes again at problems, solutions, right? That keeps it exciting.
You got to
right? It's
tell
all-
them about the become an action piece that you teach. Can
Yeah.
you tell them about this? Just, I don't want to leave today without them hearing this piece that you also teach.
Yeah, so I'll give you another good story
Yeah.
for those of you that love sports cars.
Yeah.
In 2006, I made a decision that I wanted to buy a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't have the money for it. I go to the dealership and I realize that it's $300,000.
It's a lot of money.
And then I realized that by the time you finance it, it's about $500,000. So there's no way I'm going to drop
Yeah.
500 grand on this car. And then I thought I got to buy it cash. So I gave myself a 2-year commitment. I'm going to have it by my 32nd birthday.
Okay.
And because I felt bad about it, I couldn't use the income that was coming in. I needed to find a new source of income.
Okay.
So I went. By now, I had my business for 7 years. I wasn't knocking on doors anymore. I already had a team. So I decided to go back and start knocking on doors.
Doing
And
the ugly.
Doing the ugly. So
Yep.
I'd get off at work at 6, and from 6 to 10, I would go knock doors, and
Okay.
I'd save money. So a year and 10 months pass.
This is after you're an achiever, after you're
Yeah.
successful,
Yeah, we were
after
already
you've got a
together,
team.
yeah.
You went back and did it.
A year and 10 months into it, I'm knocking doors. I save about $155,000. And I remember looking at the money and saying, damn, I only got 2 more months to save another 145. And the first thing I thought was, well, that seems a little impossible. And I remember saying, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I know what I can control, which is I can keep knocking, and I'm going to just push to the end. And I know I'm going to come through because I always come through, and God will put the right people in front of me to make this happen, but I am not going to say I can't. So I get a call 2 weeks later, and it's my broker, and he says to me, hey, I found your car, and he describes it to me. And I said, hey, well, I don't have the money yet. And he says, well, that's why I'm calling you. The guy that wants to sell it has 4 Lamborghinis. He just bought one for his wife. His wife doesn't want to drive it because she's pregnant, and he wants to sell it for $150. And I was like, what? And the next day, I go to the bank with him. I write a check for $150. He writes a check for $110
Pays it off.
to get rid of it. Bank gives me, the pink slip. But the point of the story is, I'm a big believer in be careful with what you declare with your tongue. If I would have said, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this,
You wouldn't have.
I would have never gotten that call, right? I'm also a big believer that when you're going after your dream, you're going to get a big problem right before you're going to get your blessing. and it's going to freaking knock you to the ground, right? And at that point, are you going to get up and just smash that wall and continue to go through, or are you going to go back to the person that you were and quit? And I've always just focused on the things that I can control. And I just kept going. And I think that's when God gives you that blessing.
So do I, bro.
Because that's where faith comes in.
Bro.
And
Bro.
the point, what I always tell people is, no matter how impossible something seems, control what you could control, and just believe that God will put the right people in front of you to make the impossible possible. And it's happened
Along
to me.
with believing in yourself. You
Yeah,
gotta believe in yourself,
right?
You gotta.
Yeah. So part of believing in myself was, I think of, I didn't mention this earlier, but one of the great things that my mom did is she had me playing sports at a young age.
Yeah.
And that taught me how to compete. That taught me how to deal with adversity. That taught me to, I didn't want to sit on the bench. I'm like, no matter what, I'm going to be a first stringer. And even though I didn't have the talent, I somehow ended up as first string. And all these little results build confidence. And you do something over and over and over, you start believing in yourself, right? And I started believing in myself. I started believing it's because God's always with me. And
Bro, so
and that's huge.
You know, it's
but again,
Edwin-
so that's declaring I'm going to have a Lamborghini, even though I don't have the money. Because you believe it, you still go to the dealership, and you
Still
take
touch it.
action, and then you give yourself a date on when you're going to do it by. And part of that again is you're committing, right? You're saying it comes with problems. So my purpose, I get the Lamborghini, I want a Lamborghini. Here comes these problems. Well, how are you going to afford it? You got to find new income because you can't just use your income now. These are problems that I had to solve. So I'm not into, I love material things, but it's not to show off. It's what they represent.
You got it.
Right?
100%.
It's I think we desire to achieve and accomplish. The more money you make, and as you become successful, it's not what you buy that gives you joy. It's the accomplishment. It's the reasons of how
you did it.
How you did it.
It's who you're becoming. Teddy, for you, there's people out there that want to make a transformation, in their life. They want to lose weight. They want to find their dream relationship. They want to make the relationship they're in better. They've got some achievement they want to have. They want to live oceanfront somewhere. They want to buy their mom a house, whatever it is. What advice would you give somebody out there who's just, I'm a regular person like you, Teddy. I want to make my dream happen. And if I was at lunch with you, we were having this glass of wine together, you'd say, hey girl or dude, this is what I tell you. What would you say?
My first piece of advice is don't sit in your discomfort. Don't sit in it. Force yourself to change something. It could be anything, a small thing. Force yourself, say, I'm gonna go on a walk for 30 minutes a day, or I'm gonna send these emails, or even if you don't know why you're doing it, do change something. Be open, ask for help, show your weakness, because people confuse weakness, and this is something I've learned on the show. I cried on the show, and everybody's like, don't cry, you should rise up. And for me, I wasn't embarrassed that I cried. I was proud. I have feelings and I have emotion. If you hurt me, I'll cry. But I'll learn my lesson. But I think it's okay to have feelings. If you think that you have to be a certain way all of the time to show face, you're never gonna grow. So no matter what it is, if it's in business, if it's in weight loss, if it's in parenting, seek help, ask questions, change something. Don't just sit there and feel like a victim. Because if you're a victim, you're always a victim.
Wow. I'm like, I'm looking around like our camera dudes are like, whoa, right? Like I knew today was gonna be good, but I did not, like I have notes here, right? Like I didn't know all this was gonna come my own way, and like, just for me, because I, interview a lot of people, and everything's gone okay for me so far, and I learned things today. Like you say things differently than I'd say it, and even for me to see the success you both had and to have it reinforced, like, nah, there's a real mindset behind this.